Let's get to the next news story. Two papers covered this. There was Bloomberg Pursuits, and The Independent also covered this story. And we'll start with Bloomberg Pursuits version. It says a skills gap is turning cleaning for the rich into a $100,000 a year job as the wealthy get wealthier and fuel a boom in luxury furnishings. Highly trained household staff are in high demand. Now, there was a similar story like this a couple years ago, and this was happening in Palm Beach as well. So for those of you that remember, several parts of the Wall Street and finance employee base moved to Florida. They relocated to Florida. They set up camp in and around Miami and Palm Beach, and they drove prices up a crazy amount down there. And they also had needs. They were very demanding and they wanted their homes to be taken care of. I think typical homes, like if you want a standalone home in Palm Beach, the cheapest that you can probably find, last time I looked, this was maybe a year ago, is probably $3 million for a standalone home. That is not very big. That might be 1,500 square feet, right? The prices there are insane. A more typical home that some of these people might have been buying could be in the $6 or $7 million range. So we're talking about super wealthy that are able to do this, especially on a whim, to relocate and say, hey, we're done with New York. We're going to go spend $7 million on a house in Florida, right? And so obviously they have needs. They have other spending habits. And particularly this article talks about luxury furnishings. So it goes on. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, experienced housekeepers might make $60,000 a year. Now they can easily command over $100,000 here. Oh, here's the kicker, plus benefits. Rich people are richer and they're buying more delicate things. That gets back to the furnishings. He explains they want their homes to be more museum quality versus just normal stuff. So this happens, right? This can happen. When you are making a lot of money and you're investing a lot of money and your investments are doing well in addition to your job, you can start to say, well, what else can I spend this money on, right? And it's a fair question. You can't take it with you, right? There's a saying that you never see a Brinks truck following a hearse to the cemetery, right? Maybe someone's tried it, but I don't know how they would do that. I guess you just shovel in the money and coins over the casket, but you typically do not see the Brinks truck following the hearse. And so I don't blame them for spending, right? And so they're looking for ways to spend. And this could be expensive couches. This could be artwork that goes on the wall. This could be artwork, say different artifacts like sculptures or expensive, antiques that are put on display that have to be dusted and whatnot. And then also the materials that are used in the home, whether it's the counters or if it's antique furniture made of wood that has certain finishes, or if it's the floors, or if you have tile imported from somewhere and that tile has a special finish or has to be treated properly. This gets out of hand very quickly. It gets out of hand very quickly. And none of these people are going to be doing this themselves, right? Because as I think you're realizing, this sounds like a full-time job. This sounds like a full-time job to manage all of these different methods of and products used for cleaning. So another thing to point out is that not just the cleaning cost increases, but what if you want to insure any of these particular items? If they're of extreme value and you want to have an additional rider on your homeowner's policy, your homeowner's policy alone, keep in mind, is already going to be expensive if you have a $6 or $7 million house. And then it's going to be more expensive on top of that when you say, oh, well, I have belongings. If for those of you that have a home or even a renter's policy, there's the replacement cost of the home and you're paying a premium for that. But then you're also paying a premium for the physical belongings in your house to be replaced. Fortunately, that part of my policies has always been small. I think my newest TV is at least 10 years old. So it's not been an issue for me, but it's clearly an issue for these people. So it's going to create extra insurance costs, the cleaning costs, which we talked about, and the maintenance. I've read up on stoves recently, and there's the really high end. You get a Thermador stove, you get a Wolf stove, and these, supposedly heat a lot better, they light quicker, they're more professional, right? What have you. I'm sure there's a bunch of things that's so much better about them that I just don't understand. But those stoves apparently need more maintenance. There's more complex parts with them. We hear the same thing with foreign cars, say Mercedes and whatnot. They need to be serviced. I heard Doug DeMuro talk about how German cars, if the service light goes on, you better get to the dealer and get it serviced. That is a finely tuned machine. Nothing can go wrong. If it's time for a service, it must be taken care of. Otherwise, it's going to cause problems. Whereas he said brands like Toyota really thought more about the American market and thought that most Americans aren't going to rush in to get it serviced. So regardless, the car will keep running for several thousand miles with that service light on. So thank you to Toyota for that, if that's really the case. But obviously Mercedes, Porsche's a lot more expensive than Toyotas. And so they have this extra maintenance. Think about luxury watches that you have to have sent out to special watchmakers and craftsmen that know how to care for that, particularly, and maintain that. And then we mentioned luxury cars. So there's a lot that goes in to once you get something that's nice, that's not the end of the story. And there's a quote here, like I mentioned, there's a similar article from The Independent. They have a quote that says, some of the people that we're talking about here are just now realizing that the price of such statement pieces, whether it be that luxury couch, rug, painting, car, whatever, tile, imported tile, the price of such statement pieces do not stop after point of purchase, right? It keeps going. These things need to be maintained, and they make a similar point about many people wanting these homes to be museum quality. So, yikes, what can we take away from this? Yeah, definitely consider all of the costs associated with owning that item long term. When I'm buying an item, do you know the most important things now? It's not price. Obviously, I don't want price to be exorbitantly high, but it's not price that I look at. I try and understand the quality. Is this something that's going to be of good quality? And will it last me without a lot of maintenance? Those are things that I like to buy now. If I can buy something that will do its job with no maintenance or anything for 50 years, then I'm a buyer. Then I'm a buyer for that. If it'll last 50 years and still do whatever it was supposed to do, right? Whether this is a car, obviously that's absurd, but a car, or some shirt that'll just last forever, or even if it's a new floor in your house, if it's extra durable or something. That's what I'm interested in buying. I do not want to fall into this. Just because you have a high income doesn't mean you have to fall in this. I understand you want to start buying nicer things, but be careful. Do not get on the slippery slope, and then all of a sudden you're having to pay a housekeeper $100,000 because you have 40 cleaning products for 40 different services, and you have to be careful about dusting and polishing and sending things out to be maintained. It sounds like a headache. In fact, it sounds like a job to then manage all of the people managing all of all of these belongings. And I guess that's where house managers come in, which God knows what they cost. So anyway, that's the last story. Be careful if you have a high income. Do not fall into this trap, unless you like to be bothered by the nuances of everyday things. Then good luck to you. Have a good night.